Whenever you type into the Google search bar certain terms, you may stumble upon one of the many secret Easter eggs that Google has. What if I told you that one of these Easter eggs has spawned an entire community of speedrunners and modders and has outlasted Google's billion-dollar Stadia project? If you type the word snake into the search bar, you'll get the option to play the 1976 game that was remade for a modern audience. But just how did Google Snake get developed? Well, going back to the year 2004, what's called the 20% project is just now being adopted into the Google HQ. The 20% project, or also known as side project time, is basically where employees of Google are encouraged by the company itself to spend up to 20% of their workday working on personal side projects that are related to Google. But I think you could see where I'm going with this. One such project that was developed with a side project time was the game Google Snake. So honestly, kudos to Google for having a way for their employees to explore creative outlets. Personally, when I think about corporate America, my first thought isn't how people get to creatively express themselves. But that leads to the question, just how did Google Snake go from an idea to a product? But before I answer that, what if you figured out how to get your mouse to the subscribe button? Subscribe now. Well, the developer of Google Snake goes by the name CLT. CLT worked for Google for about a year and a half before working on the Google Snake game. Prior to his time at Google, he used to make Flash games as a hobby, but this was his first game that would be seen by potential millions. I interviewed CLT and asked how he got the chance to work on Google Snake and why that game in specific. His answer was,
the team that made some of the other games like Solitaire had a list of games they wanted to make, and I picked that one when I joined as a 20%er.
He told me that no specific style was enforced and he made the basic aesthetics for the game. He also got some people from the Google Doodle team to help him with some animations and other various artworks. I think it's really cool that they had a list of classic games they wanted to remake. When asked about the original goals for the project, CLT said,
we wanted to make a polished version of the basic Snake game with clean graphics and responsive controls.
And the rest is history. The game Snake was faithfully recreated with one apple, one snake, and the challenge of getting as far as you could. It's easily replayable and very addicting. The project was a roaring success and CLT moved on to other projects. Or that's what I would say if this game hasn't had over 20 updates over the past 7 years. One of those updates came out while I was writing the script. This hot dog mode came out and it's pretty cool to be honest. If that doesn't prove the support this game has, I don't know what will. But just how did this type of development take place? Well, CLT says that it was not planned from the beginning to update the game, which makes sense if you think about it, as most Google games don't have continued support other than maybe a couple of bug fixes. But content additions seen to this degree, that was unheard of then and is still unheard of to this day. But just what sparked an interest in continuing to support the game? Why Snake of all games? Well,
I found out that people were speedrunning the game and was motivated to create more gameplay customization. I am also a big fan of Team Fortress 2 and always enjoyed the updates that game received.
Team Fortress 2. While I respect that game heavily for what it did to the gaming landscape, I don't think CLT understands the irony that TF2 being mentioned as the inspiration for making updates has. The game is notorious for not getting updates. I see what he means though. The game was one of the first to popularize adding content well past its release, and it was a pioneer of the live service model that we see today. But it's just funny to me that the one game that is considered abandoned by its developers is what inspired this multi-year support. Does that mean Google Snake is technically a live service game? I cannot wait to see the Google Snake Battle Pass and daily shop rotation. So after seeing people speedrun this game, CLT got approval from Google to add more updates to the game. He said,
the game is popular, so they're happy for me to occasionally create new content for it.
I honestly think that's so cool that Google sees the success of this game and lets the developer continue to support the game and the community. As far as I know, Google doesn't directly make money from Google Snake, so they basically just let CLT update it because they know it's popular and fans want it. But CLT does what most AAA devs cannot comprehend doing. He listens to his community. The first ever mod that was made for this game was the Google Snake Dark mod. Side note, maybe I'm the only one that thinks this, but I think it's crazy that this game has mods considering it runs on my web browser. The mod was basically a recolor of the background to add a dark mode to the game like you see in most apps nowadays. After seeing the success of this mod, CLT added it to the base game along with many other themes. Another instance of this happening was the dice mod. Basically, it made it so every time you ate all the apples on the screen, a dice would roll, and whatever that dice rolled would be how many apples would appear next. So if you ate the last apple on the screen, then the dice rolled a 3, then 3 more apples would spawn on the screen, and so on and so forth. As you can guess, this mode was officially added to Google Snake in version 3.0 of the game. There are also many other mods that I personally think are really cool. CLT also added a speedrun timer. If you press T while playing the game, a timer pops up, so it's easier to time runs while speedrunning. The thought and passion that is poured into this Easter egg game is insane to me. Imagine if a AAA dev listened to their fan base as well as CLT does. It would be the gold standard of developers. Earlier, we talked about the popularity of Google Snake and the Google Trends graphs associated with it. Some of you may have noticed the odd peaks and valleys the Google Trend graph has for the game. Like, look here. From July 2022 to September 2022, the search volume jumps from 8% to 100%. That is an insane jump. Why does the game fluctuate in popularity so much? I bet some of you have figured it out from personal experience alone. Like I'm sure many of you that are watching this video have done. I have occasionally not paid attention in class and instead played Google Snake. If you haven't played Google Snake during class, I don't think you had a childhood. Well, it turns out that these peaks and valleys correlate to the month school's in session to a T. June, July, and August are all slow months for the game, but right when September rolls around, the game's search volume skyrockets. I asked CLT if he knew that kids across the world play his game during class when they are supposed to be listening, and he said that he does. Can we get a hashtag thank you CLT chain in the comments below? He has helped fight boredom off in countless classrooms, so I think he deserves some recognition. Side note, my school banned Google Snake. The IT guys at my school are losers, bro. Let me goof off in class. I mentioned earlier that what inspired CLT to add more updates to the game was the speedrunning community. While I'm not going to go over the history of the speedrunning community summoning salt style, you can find a similar video to that right here. But I do want to talk about some notable things from the community. The first people to speedrun the game was Franscore and Asaki. Now, what game do you think they originally speedran before Google Snake? Maybe Minesweeper? Tetris? Some other classic game? Close. They actually speedran Ratchet and Clank. You could have given me 1,000 guesses and there was zero chance I would have been one of them. I actually found the original message that started the speedrunning journey. It's wild to me that this one Discord message caused years of development on this game. Like, genuinely think about that. This message changed the lives of not only CLT, but the countless other players that decided to also speedrun Google Snake. The reason they originally got into Google Snake was because Franscore and Asaki wanted something fast-paced they could speedrun. A lot of games that you can speedrun, you could spend potentially hours just to fail some crucial glitch, and then all of your time spent on that run was for nothing. The nice thing about Google Snake is that if you fail a run, you can get back to where you left off in a couple of minutes at most. The game is fun, addicting, and the thrill of slowly whittling down your fastest time makes it easy to see why this game has a thriving speedrunning community even today. So one question I've had for years is, what does CLT do when he isn't working on Google Snake? Like, surely he doesn't just show up to the Google offices, log onto his computer, work on Google Snake, and then go home. Well, I asked him what he does at Google, and he's actually on the team that makes all of the Google Easter eggs. That blew my mind. I never realized that Google had a whole dedicated team that got paid to work on Easter eggs for Google. I mean, it makes sense though, because there are a lot of Google Easter eggs, and I imagine it would take a ton of work to update them and make new ones every year. That has got to be such a fun job. Imagine getting to work on all these fun Easter eggs and games. Like, the creativity and passion that comes from these games really show. I also asked CLT if he had made any other games for Google, and he said,
I made Google Minesweeper, Google Memory Game, and the Soccer and Cricket Mini Cup games.
So if you ever thought that Google Minesweeper looks similar to Google Snake, well, it's because the same dude made it. All of these things make so much sense when you're told them that it makes me feel dumb for not realizing it earlier. Minesweeper even has a little cameo in Google Snake, believe it or not. There was a mode in Google Snake with mines, which are the same mines from Google Minesweeper. That's Easter Eggception because Google Snake is an Easter egg with an Easter egg inside it. This means there is a confirmed Google Easter egg extended universe because all of the Google minigames are happening in the same timeline. I cannot wait until we get 30 movies about all of them, and then we have one big crossover movie where all the Google minigames come together to take down the main villain, the Google shareholders. Another small little fact I thought was interesting is that this actually isn't even the first Snake game that Google made. In 2013, it was the Chinese New Year, Year of the Snake. To celebrate, Google decided to make a Snake game. So to make this video titled Not a Lie, I'm going to have to also talk about this game. It is the complete history of Google Snake. It didn't specify which version. So this version of Snake is a little weird. You can't actually fail like in modern Google Snake. Instead, you have a 1-minute timer. It's high score based, so you try to get as many points as you can before the time runs out. It's basically like the peace mode of the modern Google Snake, but instead it has a time limit in points. I'm sure you can guess, but there's also a speedrunning community for this game somehow. People speedrun getting points in a certain amount of time, but they also have what's called an anti-high score run. Basically, they try to get as low of a score they can in the time limit. And we even have a speedrunning feud because both of these people from 4 years ago claim they have the world record. Well, newsflash, you can't both have the world record if the record is 0. I think it'd be cool if CLT added an Easter egg in the modern day Google Snake that referenced this old version. The Year of the Snake is coming up again, so it'd be the perfect time. I also asked CLT if he had known about this game before making his version of Google Snake, and he said he had not. I have one last little anecdote from the developer himself. I asked him if he plans on making more games in the future, and he said,
yes.
riveting stuff. I could not have made this video at all without the help of CLT, the developer of the game, YamiPlay, a prominent speedrunner and the owner of the Google Snakes Discord, and the Google Snakes speedrunning community as a whole. They all help so much and I seriously can't thank them enough. They occasionally host tournaments, and this game is a lot of fun. So if you want to get into speedrunning the game, that is a perfect place to start. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing. See y'all later.